So today we will talk about 10 important tips that will help you add some of the capabilities and help improve the overall performance of your water system. We understand that each of you may be looking at systems in various stages of maturity. So the best way to look at these 10 tips is to assess where you are in the adoption of these capabilities and start with the one that would be the fastest to adopt, giving you the most ROI or return on investment. Let us look at what each of these mean and how they can help improve your system. So the first one, I believe, is a no-brainer. I mean, this is something that I would expect that a very large part of the audience today has already checked off. The key aspect of this is ensuring your SCADA is cyber ready or is easily supportable. We have often had water customers lapse in upgrades that makes their supportability challenging. So before you think of any advanced analytics, simulations, mobile or web interfaces that you may want to add, please make sure that your SCADA is up to date with versions, OS patches, and other security updates. This will enable you to start with the right platform to expand. Equally important to staying current with OS security, patches, and SCADA version is having a standards plan implemented. Without a standards plan and consistency in implementation, all expansions and enhancements become really unwieldy. Standards also go a long way in operational consistency and helps with compliance. Security and application standards definitely take a priority and should be the first ones to focus on. But as you think of advanced capabilities like analytics, mobile remote clients, system-wide connectivity, standards related to architecture or remote access, or even looking at what, standardizing on the devices that your operators or other personnel use can go a long way in ensuring that you have a successful SCADA implementation. Now let's let's start getting into how you really up your game in your SCADA implementation. Having a disaster recovery plan definitely goes a long way. Disaster recovery can start with a more fundamental versioning plan, so you don't have to really start with having a backup SCADA and a link that synchronizes your primary SCADA with your backup SCADA. Disaster recovery could also be as simple as a backup and restore plan, or it could be a plan that is continuously improving. So you may start at a smaller scale based on where your system is and eventually get to a more robust redundant SCADA pair and a backup location where you may have another backup pair. So you can increasingly get there. It doesn't have to start from the get-go. What is important is laying out a plan and following the roadmap of continuous improvement towards getting to the final goal of making your system reliable. Once you have now laid the foundation for a reliable, robust, and a secure system, you start now by looking at what platform you need to lay for expanding into more advanced capabilities. And what the whole intention of getting to the advanced capability is obviously to directly contribute to the performance and efficiency of the whole system. Now, I fundamentally believe that the first decision that you make in laying that foundation is by deciding on a good data management platform. When you think about a data management platform and when you think about, how do I choose a good data management platform, what you need to consider is a platform that is able to handle different data source collections. So it could be coming from, remote field stations. It could be, even if you are implementing any IoT solutions, it could be coming from these smart sensors that you might have installed, or it could be coming from disparate systems. If your treatment station has a different system, your water distribution has a different system, you need a data management layer that is able to connect to all of these and collect all that data. What you also need is that the data management layer should be able to scale based on your data needs. So you could start small when you start looking at a limited set of stations, but as you expand and bring on more systems, that data management layer should be easily expandable. And then as you now solve the data collection and data storage piece, you need to start looking at how easy is it to get data out of this data management layer, and how easy is it to analyze information that is being stored from your water system. So that's the other aspect that you need to consider when you look at it. And then eventually in your data management roadmap, once you have solved your SCADA needs and once you have solved for an analysis that is required for your SCADA system, the bigger goal is how can this data management layer now integrate with your CMMS systems or your GIS systems and really expand the ability to transfer information or make your information available to stakeholders that are outside of the SCADA operators or outside of personnel who are directly connected with SCADA systems, but still need that data to make decisions related to water demand or other planning that they might be doing out of it. So the key to deciding on the historian or the data management layer that you choose is to see how extensible that data management layer is in addition to the scalability and the flexibility of connecting to different systems. Now with a reliable and robust SCADA architecture and a best-in-class data management layer, we now get into the system and operator performance aspects. The absolute first step for a SCADA system is focusing on the alarm strategy. I believe everyone on the call has at some point in time been in discussions around alarms. We have had people writing alarm management books for a long time. Alarm management has been a topic of discussion in several of our events, several blogs where people have come up with recommendations. Having a good alarm strategy is absolutely critical, and choosing a SCADA that implements some of these advanced alarm management procedures is highly critical. ISA has done a great job in laying out the 18.2 standards that really help SCADA systems in defining a good alarm strategy that focuses on reducing noise, that helps operators react faster to alarms, and it just makes the operations safer and increases the productivity. So an alarm management standard, again, having a plan around how you implement all of these procedures, again, could start at a very basic level of eliminating nuisance alarms to really going into what is the right procedure of acknowledging or even locking out an equipment. But as long as you have a plan in place and you have a SCADA that you have chosen that aligns and helps you get there, I think you are on a good path with that. Almost as an extension to alarm management is this concept of digitizing your work processes. All water wastewater facilities, from projects that I've done, from talking to water customers, I've seen that each and every water facility has an operating procedure. I mean, most of these operating procedures are printed manuals that are given to operators and water personnel that are directly connected to operations when they are trained. What we are seeing increasingly, and what we have seen be very effective, is getting these work processes integrated into your SCADA systems. How can some of the information that you're getting from the field, whether it's an exception, whether it's an alarm, whether it's a data change, how can that trigger a work process that is needed, and how can you consistently have an operator react to the alarm over and over again? And what we have seen by integrating some of these work processes into the SCADA is it makes the learning for any new operator go a lot faster. You are sure that the action that he's taking is consistent with how you have defined your water operations. And what you need to ensure, though, is the SCADA that you choose, or the SCADA procedures that you choose, are well integrated into your system. It's not something that is outside of the system. It's well integrated within the same framework or within the same UI that the operator operators is operating his water system. So that becomes a key aspect in which you can ensure that the operator is compliant, or he basically enables the compliance of the overall system as he reacts with in a consistent way as informed by the work process for him. So now that we have upgraded the system, we have our standards defined, we have our alarm and work processes defined. We now look at the enterprise aspect of the SCADA, right? How do you now scale your SCADA and have a consistent way of operating across your entire water system? So it's not just a water distribution system, or it's not just a water treatment system. How do you now get to a unified SCADA implementation as you now expand the standards that you laid out, or as you expand the alarm management procedures that you laid out? Now, this, I understand, is probably the most complex part of getting people to adopt, right? It's not easy to get a water treatment operation follow the same consistent look and feel, or even the same SCADA as the water distribution side. I mean, each one makes the decision separately. And what we have seen be most successful is if we start that process by having a common visualization layer. And that too, when you start with a common visualization layer, you have to start with stakeholders that need data from your systems, but are not directly connected with operations. So what you really are looking for is how can you choose the right visualization tool that now basically binds each of these systems together, presents a single view for your, it could be for the operators if the operators are willing to adopt it, but it could start with your managers, or it could start with your water operations personnel for their planning purposes, or even if you need to give a view to your GIS department, they could start with a client screen or an HMI screen that now gets the information that they need. But really starting with that information that lets them do the real-time and historical correlation, or even look at basically use some rudimentary analytical tools, or maybe advanced analytical tools based on the information that is presented to them, having a correlation between what's happening right now versus what has historically happened. That way they can adjust the water parameters. So having them look at a single pane of glass that looks at these different systems is really the right way that we have seen to gain adoption, to gain the concept that you need to get to a common unified system to make it more popular. And we've seen customers, once they start down that path, the adoption and the concept and the ease of use, or even the efficiency of how they operate the system is increased. Now, once you have kind of decided on the visualization layer, what you really need to work on, once you have picked, okay, which visualization am I going to use, which now connects to different system, is really deciding on a persona-based visualization. It's like, just giving each and every person the same HMI screen is not fruitful, because most of the users that are not connected to the water operations really have nothing to do, or they do not know how to even navigate and get to the information they need. So really catering to a persona-based visualization that is flexible in how they access the visualization. So it could be mobile, it could be web, it could be on their laptop. It could just be a report that they look at. They might not even look at an HMI, but just having that flexibility in the tool that lets them decide how and where they want to look at that information is extremely important. And so your next step as you decide on visualization should be, how can you tie it to a persona? How can when someone logs in, the system knows that, okay, I am a maintenance manager that is logged in, and what I need to see is how many of my equipment has locked out, or what's the status of some of the lockout, maintenance of some of the lockout equipment that is out there. And if you start presenting all of that information, just the engagement of all of these stakeholders in your system increases, and the likelihood that they will push for a common standard as you expand and extend your system really increases. Now, once you've kind of defined your standards, once you have your alarm standards in place, you've picked your visualization, and once you have kind of decided on which personas are going to participate in the visualization, what becomes important is the user experience, or how efficient is the UI, and how can you make it easier for a user to really navigate and use that UI. And the fundamental building block of today's SCADA HMIs, which is really fueled by even our PLCs or RTUs supporting data models down at the control level, is defining a data model within your visualization navigation, or within how you design your screens and how someone navigates, or how someone can drive context with the hierarchy or with the data model that you have put in. That becomes a critical part of your strategy of how you would now design your UI, because a great UX is a happy customer for once you present a great UX, the person who is looking at that screen is really satisfied with the experience and is very supportive of where you want to go. So that becomes a critical nature of how you adopt it. And then what this really brings us to is our final recommendation, and something that my co-presenters Haley and John would go into more detail in, is really seeing how we can use some of the efficient HMI standards. And what we have seen so far is this is by far the most popular start for customers when they talk about refreshing their SCADA. The ISA 101 standard do a great job of laying out, how can you make your screen simple? How can you make it more performance oriented? How can you make the operators a lot more effective as you design your screens? So without spending too much time here and giving my co-presenters their time to talk in more details, where we'll see some of the use cases of how customers have used these screens and benefited from them.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, click here to watch the next video and learn how GE Vernova is at the forefront of tackling challenges in the water and wastewater industry.